My name is Shakira Robertson. Jackie Purton was my mum. She was my world. This is her story. Mum was very outgoing, was so full of life, and she'd just walk into a room and everyone would just stop because she'd come in with so much energy ready to go.
Jackie Purton was 37 years old when she was killed allegedly by her former partner.
She was such an outstanding person. Her shoes are way too big to fill. She sacrificed so much for us kids, and I just wish I could thank her for that.
Shakira Robertson is Jackie's eldest child. Her parents separated when she was 3 years old. She has 3 younger brothers.
Her approach to relationships was definitely kind of old school. I would say she always fantasised that love at first sight, and she'd go on dates, come home to roses and marriage and that sort of thing. I believe she did prefer to be in a relationship. I often found that I think Mum was afraid to be alone.
In 2019, Jackie met James Austin. The pair clicked because of their mutual interest in horses.
Her love of horses was insane. We had 15 horses at one point. James and his father were huge in the horse racing industry in Tassie. I would say within a couple of weeks they were living together, but for me that was standard. Usually when Mum met someone, they were moving in quite quickly.
Jackie and her sons moved to Austin's rural property about a half an hour from Hobart.
After about a month or so, I didn't see or hear from her much. She'd become very closed off, very restricted with how she would speak to us, and where we could meet her, didn't want to leave the property to come and see us, so it had to be there. But yeah, things definitely didn't seem right.
The relationship was tumultuous, and in late 2022, Jackie decided to leave Austin. She secured a rental, started a new job, and was helping Shakira train her young horse.
She changed. She was just so happy. She was so house proud. Like, I'd go there and the house was spotless. So much weight off her shoulders.
Jackie had been separated from Austin for months when, in March last year, she went back to his rural property.
I'd woken up to a message from one of Mum's friends saying they'd read something on Tas Police and a woman had been hit by a vehicle. Have you heard from your mum? And I felt sick.
I received a phone call and it was Shakira who asked me if I'd heard from Jackie that day, and I hadn't.
I called Mum 16 times. She didn't pick up.
I started to panic a little.
I sent a text message and she didn't respond.
Jackie's mother, Leanne Wolford, rushed to her local police station.
They asked me to take a seat, and of course I couldn't. I was pacing the floor. I just knew because 2 officers came out from the door holding their hats in front of them, and they told me they were sorry that it was her. And I just remember sliding down the wall. It was the hardest day of my whole life.
Police allege Austin was driving the car that hit Jackie and have charged him with murder. He's pleaded not guilty.
Gonna have to get bigger vases.
I know.
For all the flowers or...
It'd be nicer once the monument goes on.
Mum's anniversary was on the 13th of March. That marked a whole year. It's gotten harder. The more the time goes, it's reality slapping you in the face every day that you're not going to see that person again. The last time we spoke, I didn't tell her I loved her, and I'll never get to do that. Every milestone, birthdays, Christmas, Easter, it's never the same.
I think our lives have all been shattered. I feel so broken as a person. I get up each day, I go to work, I smile, and I pretend things are okay when deep inside nothing is okay.
At just 21 years of age, Shakira is now caring for her 3 younger brothers full-time.
What's been the impact on your brothers?
They're finally starting to talk about it. I'd say the first 6 months couldn't even mention mum in our household because they just burst into tears. It was just too much.
Shakira says victims' families need long-term support.
When my brothers first moved in, a government organisation was helping us out with $500 gift cards every fortnight for grocery purposes. That was so helpful in the start. Then after 6 months that stopped and they weren't able to offer any more financial help. I am spending up to $600, $700 a fortnight on my groceries. It's very hard to keep up with their needs.
Domestic violence has been labelled a national crisis. It can happen to anyone.
A few years ago, my partner and I rented a property in Hobart on the Eastern Shore. Our neighbour was friendly and often would always smile and wave. She was killed in an act of domestic violence and her name was Rachel Wake.
This is Rachel Wake. She was my mum.
Hi kids, Mummy loves you.
She was bright, bubbly. She was just very resilient and she would do anything under the sun.
That's the most amazing thing I've done. Thank you, Wade.
She was the best mum I could have ever asked for.
52-year-old Rachel Wake was a much-loved Hobart midwife. She divorced Romany's dad Darren in 2012 and sought help for family violence.
Mum actually went to the Magistrates Court to get a family violence order taken out against Darren. I just know that he was not very nice to her. He wasn't nice to her at all.
Romany's parents shared custody of her and her younger brother.
I remember Mum's house full of love, full of life, full of joy, all our toys, all our paintings everywhere. But Darren's house was the polar opposite. And so when we would go there, it would be a cycle of like manipulation and just kind of really negative stuff.
Romany's younger brother decided to stop seeing his dad. It would cause significant tension on Christmas Day in 2021.
That day, I'd planned to go see Darren for lunch and to just swap presents. I sent a message saying that I was coming over now, just me, and then I got a bunch of messages back being like, you have to bring your brother, make sure you bring him, make sure you bring him. He has to come today. I want to see him, make sure he's here.
When Romany turned up at her dad's house alone, he was upset. The pair would then drive to Rachel's house so he could drop off his son's present.
He told me, don't come down the driveway, just wait. I'll be like 30 seconds max. And I was like, oh, this is taking a bit longer than usual. Darren came out of the house with blood up his arms going, cold 000, I've just killed your mum.
Darren had stabbed Rachel 17 times while his son was in the house. Paramedics worked to save her.
I remember just screaming that I wanted my mum. I need my mum, I want my mum. And they said, no, you can't see her, like we've got to help her.
Victim Support Services paid for forensic cleaning of Rachel's house, but when Romany returned, she found traces of her mother's blood. She contacted her police liaison officer who visited the scene. The Department of Justice told 7:30 she was offered support.
There's still days where I find little bits here, there and everywhere that send me back. But as a 19-year-old who had only just come back to the house, with no resources, no nothing, it was brutal having to clean all that up.
Now 22 years old, Romany still lives in the house where her mother died. Despite the horrific crime that took place there are many happy memories too.
Everything that's in here is pretty much Mum. It's so colourful, so bright. The house is just full of warmth and love. She would come to all my games and competitions and cheer me on. Every single day there is a moment where I do miss her, or I do think and I go, oh, my mum would love to hear about that. And then the reality sets back in again that she's not here.
Darren Wake was charged with murder and initially pleaded not guilty. Romany's angry it took him 2 years before admitting in court he did kill his former wife.
Why do you call him Darren and not Dad?
He never will be my dad, so he's just referred to as Darren now.
Do you have any relationship with Darren now?
No, nothing at all. No, nothing. Hate's a strong word, but you have to go with hate regardless, yeah.
Romany's been waiting a long time for justice, and last week that day finally arrived.
Darren Mark Wake, you have pleaded guilty to the murder of Rachel Ann Wake, your former wife, on the 25th of December 2021.
Justice Helen Wood granted 7:30 rare permission to broadcast her sentencing remarks. This is an excerpt.
She stood her ground when you insisted on entering her house to see your son against his wishes and without her permission. She tried to ward off your blows, but you persisted with your attack until you had stabbed her 17 times. Darren Mark Wake, you are convicted of murder and sentenced to a term of imprisonment of 26 years from the 25th of December 2021. I order that you not be eligible for parole until you have served 17 years of that sentence.
26 years isn't enough for my mum's life, but it's enough to start some justice.
The murder of a domestic partner or former partner is the most extreme form of family violence. It is abhorrent to our society and demands condemnation in the strongest terms.
Will you ever forgive him?
No, never. Not once, no.
For Shakira Robertson, it could be years before the man who's accused of killing her mother faces trial.
I am finding it very hard to come to terms with it could be a couple of years before we do finally get the answers that we want. Every day we're living with the what ifs.
But Shakira's about to receive much needed support. Despite being neighbours for a short time, Romany and Shakira had never met until now.
Hi. Nice to meet you. It's so nice to finally meet.
While they share the most tragic of bonds,
So weird being back in this area.
they've learned they have other positive and uncanny similarities.
Do you want to come inside? Did you bring photos or anything?
I did. That's a nice picture.
We are the same age, so we're both born the same year. We're just a couple of months apart.
That's a horse one.
Shakira and her mum had a bond over horses, and my mum loved horses. She had a horse growing up, so she's got all her little horses. Some other things we found out, we both work in childcare together.
Then there's this one of mum in labour with me.
She lived next door for a little while. That was lovely to know that we did have that connection before and that she had met my mum. Christmas Day will mark 3 years this year. Victims and their families should not have to put up with the lack of funding, the lack of resources and the lack of skills to deal with these sorts of situations.
No, this can't keep happening, and I am so afraid that if something isn't done, the numbers are going to get higher and higher every year. I want people to remember my mum's face, remember her story, and remember that she was more than just a number.
If you need help, call Lifeline on 13 11 14 or the National Sexual Assault and Family Violence Counselling helpline 1800 RESPECT on 1800 737 732.